Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Line. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton, I guess.
I don't know. Taking a deep dive in the arts of mime. Choreography. I don't know. I'm just making this up. You can't stop me.
Go on.
Unstoppable.
Oh.
You didn't even see that coming.
Man, I didn't even see that coming.
I mean, you did because you clicked on the video that said Unstoppable, Breaking the Line podcast, episode 60-something. Dude, we're like 60 episodes in. Is that crazy?
That is crazy. When you think about it, like we started like over a year ago.
Yeah, episode 61.
61.
Dang.
Yeah.
Been here over a year doing nonsense for tens of viewers.
Yeah. All of this work, like many man hours of work going into this.
Yeah, if you wonder why we're doing this, part of it's for you, but a lot of it's for us because we actually think
a lot of it's
songs.
for him.
Yeah. We think through songs. It helps us develop things, so it's good for us.
No, and like the main purpose is like it's a quality over quantity thing. It always has been for me.
Yep.
Of like I would rather have 10 viewers, 10 viewers are
right.
quality.
The loyal 10.
I don't need
Rosalie,
a million
shout
views.
Out to you, to the Virginia team. I believe the Bullens like watching us.
Yeah, shout out to. Not even my mom watches this. So,
Yeah,
so
I know.
I was going to say shout out to my mom, but now
Shout
I
out
don't
to
think
my mom who does watch this.
Okay, there you go. Shout out to Cindy.
It's just our family and
Yeah.
random.
People who we know personally. We know you personally. There's like a 99%.
If we don't know
chance.
you personally, like tell us hello because they'd be like, why are you watching this?
Yeah, right.
Like, we love you, but like, why are you here? What algorithm brought you to us?
Yeah, like it's pretty crazy.
It'd be really interesting. So tell us down below. But today, Unstoppable, choreographed originally in 2014, relatively new. It's 10 years old, right?
10 years being new is kind of weird, but yeah,
relatively new as opposed to last week's episode that was 22 years old or something like that.
20 something years old.
Yeah, something like that. So this one's more on the modern side, at least as far as like if we were to go through the history of choreography, we got a lot of really bad songs that are dead and buried in the past, and that's okay. Choreography got a little better, and this is where we started being like, we already have a long list of songs. Let's start developing something that's like better, like specific issues of theology with epic background music, and this one hits that. So drama team choreographed it. I believe it was their alpha team. You can tell me down below if I'm wrong. 2014 during their session as a team, and then that summer I went to do my internship, my fateful internship there, and learned the songs, what brought it back to my team. So this one is the end of our fall session 2014, so like not even a year old when we presented this and recorded it. Fun fact also, one of our first recording days that we did this. So we had like some recording days where we did a couple of unique projects, but this is one of the ones where we're like, every session we're going to have a recording day at the end. And this is the product of that.
Nice.
Excited?
I'm exited.
Cool. Let's get started. Let's go into it. So this one's on the AIM San Diego page. The quality of this is on 70 something HD. It's not very good. It's one of our first recording days though. I will say with this music, when it came out, because it's royalty free, so many people in like different random acts were using this music for their stuff. So I had to laugh when I saw it on America's Got Talent like 3 or 4 times. Background music. I will say, so with these sins, that last one, we chose to do a mirror, originally choreographed. It was like an lethal injection of some kind of drug or something.
And of course, this was roughly in the era where demons were super popular in mime songs, you know. I feel like this is on like the latter end.
It's on the latter half, I think.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Latter half, though. My go-to. I like that little water technique coming up and down, showing them getting dipped in.
We got Temptation. This is like ripped straight out of Virtuoso.
Kind of, but then you get these massive angels, and this is a cool little set piece here, because the angels come by, Jesus' choreography is no, and then those angels turn into all the wonders. So, unlike Virtuoso, you actually get all 3 temptations.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the Gospel of Matthew or something instead of Gospel of Luke.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And then randomly we go to John 11. So I will say, part of the thread of how did they pick these songs was it's talking about Christ conquering over death. And so they tried to pick like the baptism of Jesus and Lazarus and stuff like that, showing that conquering. So it can feel a little random. That's where you probably need the speaker to be like prefacing these things, because otherwise you're like, yeah, Jesus did stuff, and then you kind of get into the third act. I do like this.
Yeah, this epic intensity going
Well, and
on.
like that music, that steak sound being the nail beat. That was a nice little set of drums. I will say that I do like the structure of this, where you get pretty solid 3 acts that are very distinct and separated based on the music. Wait, we've seen this scene before, haven't we?
Oh my gosh, where'd the scarf go?
And then I love this. I've seen it a couple different ways, but when God's going up to save this person from the beginning, that we're going back to the beginning of the story, Satan's like, no, and he doesn't even do anything. He just looks at Satan.
Yeah, no, I like, one of the things I really like, which I'll get into it later, is like, it feels like at the end of, like, there's like an act 3B.
Yeah, no, it's a sub act at the end, coming back to the beginning,
like an epilogue maybe. Because like it feels like at the end of Act 3, Jesus comes back to life, the demons are defeated, and that would be the end of the song.
right? But it's not, because the point was Christ's death and resurrection. Theology section wasn't just for him or whatever; it was to save us from our own death.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. Purpose and message.
I have no idea. It just doesn't make sense. It's completely abstract nonsense.
Conquering of sin and death, bro. This is like core gospel stuff. He is unstoppable.
Dang.
So like that, I don't know.
That's amazing.
What are you looking at?
I thought it was like a bug over there or something.
Anyway. Purpose and message.
Yeah, so like you said, I think that's good. Thinking about like where I'd put this in a lineup, this is kind of one that it's pretty versatile in my opinion, because it meets like a middle to end kind of area, but not at the end kind of thing. It would be like one of those that establishes Jesus and his power, and like our response then would be what comes after it. So
right,
like,
you need like 1 or 2 songs at the end for the response. You could theoretically end with this and just leave them with the like respond to the gospel because he saved you, but like you could flesh that out a little bit more with 1 or 2 more songs.
Right. As far as like the intensity goes, like if you go by classic intensity structure, it would go closer to the end. If you go by thematic storyline structure, it would be close to the end, but not quite there.
Yeah, I feel like it finds that niche right pretty well.
Yeah, which is good, because we often find that a lot of songs are either like good openers or good closers, but we don't really have a lot of effective middle ground pieces, so we end up just using whatever we can.
Maybe that's the theme we have for September. Middle ground September.
Average September.
No, they're not average songs. They're just songs you'd put in the middle, not at the end. Which ironically works for next week's episode. So in retrospect, middle end-to-end song September.
Yeah, rolls off the tongue. So anyways, yeah.
So yeah, purpose and message. It feels like it's that core gospel issue of death, resurrection, right? Christ's work, why it matters. So bringing it out and pinpointing that theology. And how it does that? It does it pretty decently. So things that you'd praise about the song?
Yep. I love the song. I think the song is really good. It's one of those, like, it borderlines abstract, but in concrete enough that the clarity is pretty good.
It's interesting. That middle section is like snapshots of like the gospel to highlight the story. Beginning and end are really solid for me, where it makes sense, the pictures that they're trying to paint. Granted, it requires the audience to sit down the whole time. You have to watch it from beginning to end with that message in mind. If you walk in the middle of the song, not going to make nearly as much impact at the end, where it's going to be like, who's this random person that's coming up from the ground? So you have to watch it as one whole. But ultimately, the beginning and end, really good for me.
Yep. Another praise that I would give is I really like the kind of the pictures that it goes back to multiple times. So like when you were saying like the Jesus being overtaken by the people and the sinner being, taken
you get
over.
The first one of the consequences of sin. So kind of like if you're near the end of a presentation lineup, you've already talked about it. So you're like shorthanding, like, yep, person sinned, got it. But then it's like Jesus went to the grave, came out alive. Now he's taking other people who were dead, bringing them back alive. So it's like 3 times we've done it, which adds to that clarity.
Yeah. And so when it comes to like the way that it depicts, like it feels almost like chiastic as a song, which I think is really cool. And so it has kind of that reflective kind of nature in it of, you know, beginning to end kind of reflect. I don't know. I think it's really artfully done. So I really appreciate that.
Cool.
Yep. I think one thing that I would probably want to change, which I, you know, maybe talked about in critiques, is like I would like for there to be something like a speaker or something beforehand to kind of like give a little bit of primer into it.
Yeah.
Because like I wouldn't want to change the choreography. I think the choreography is amazing. I think it's really good as it stands. It meets all those niches, but I feel like if you're not primed for the song, you won't know what to look for. And since you have to watch things once you can't rewind, do that one again. You can't do that
preface.
So I feel like
it's very artful to that end. The clarity goes down because of it.
Yeah. So
I would, as we moved into already kind of these critiques, the middle section, I like John the Baptist and I like Lazarus. They're in the same spot. I don't necessarily like the Temptations in the Wilderness. Not that they're done brilliantly with the staging and everything. I would want another story about death and somebody coming. Like I would want to echo the beginning or an end kind of theme of somebody being in the middle and coming back to life. They chose something bad or something to that end. I feel like that story, you have enough time to develop the themes of dead things coming alive so that by the end of Lazarus, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense what's happening. Jesus is causing those dead things to come alive. He is taking on sin. Because there's like a jump. He heals Lazarus, he's preaching, and then Satan randomly pulls them away and he's like, sin. that there's a jump there, and I feel like that's the transition I would want to build towards somehow.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the Temptations being kind of like a out of place thing, I feel like it was added so that way they could do the cool transition between the scenes.
And I'm sure if I were to ask Tim or the people who choreographed it, they had specific reason for it, and I totally wouldn't even deny those things. Mm-hmm. I think there's a better story we could choose. That's all I'm saying. This is my job, to better critique things, you know. And if we ever bring this back on the team, which I would totally bring this back, I would probably change that one middle scene in some way of connecting the middle section. It does not suffer from second act blues. It's like second act blurs.
Second act purples.
No, it's just blurry. You know, that's all.
Yeah.
Theologically, things you would consider with it.
This is complete heresy, 100%.
Interesting. It's all Bible stories.
Pretty much. Jesus was not a mime, Samuel.
Huh. You know what? Can't argue with that. But you know what I can say? What's the gospel with the most words of Jesus in it?
Luke. If you consider Luke Acts one cohesive message.
Jesus talks a little in Acts, but I don't think that tips the scales.
Oh, you're saying like just Jesus?
Most red letters in the Gospels.
I think that's Matthew, isn't it?
It is Matthew.
Yeah.
And fewest is Mark. It's pretty easy. No. I think Luke's second place.
Okay. And what's your point?
I don't know. Jesus wasn't a mime. I'm confirming your
yeah, there's lots of words. He said lots of things.
He said lots of words in red letters.
See, but Paul was a mime. Be imitators of Christ.
Be imitators of me as I imitate Christ, or something like that. Or follow me as I follow Christ. But it's, be imitators of Christ.
Yeah. Anyways, but
so Christ was an imitator, because
no, we are supposed to be mimes of Christ.
Dang. So this is actually fulfilling like our sanctification to be mimes.
So I had somebody like legitimately say that they didn't think mime was biblical.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really weird. Especially like the main argument was, well, there's not really mimes in the Bible or something like that. And to this day, my mind is befuddled that I'm just like,
yes,
what are you talking about?
One, what is the standard of like, well, if it's not in the Bible, can you not do it? Like computers or
sorry, I can't use my
modern toilets. I don't know. Like, it's not in the Bible. It's not biblical.
Yeah.
But anyway, theologically, Jesus died for your sins, which sins lead to death. Therefore, Jesus died to bring you back to life. Boom.
Yeah,
like, it's pretty solid on that theology of the gospel.
Yep, it's great. It depicts, like who Jesus is, but then also his relationship to people.
Yep.
And I think that's really good. Talking about like the goodness versus the greatness of God and how those two things tend to interweave between each other.
Yeah. Almost like they're not separable.
Yeah. Almost like it's all part of the same God.
That's amazing. Clarity, difficulty, style. Style. Can't stop this. No. Something like that. So anyway, clarity is probably where I'm going to give it its weakest tones as far as that middle section of what in the world happened in the middle. Still solid. People would want to watch it. I just feel like you're going to get the ending better, and you have to sit down and watch the entire thing as a critique. So I don't know. I'm struggling on clarity for this one. It's part of why I haven't brought it back.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm kind of wanting to go in like the 5 or 6 range on clarity, because like it gets points of like, I know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not like,
the
okay, what are they doing on
sense.
stage? Like, yeah, the depiction of it makes sense. But the issue that it has is there are way too many nuances and way too many specific things that can get lost.
Stories.
Yeah. And yeah, the connection, the overarching theme between it, where if you watch it, like I was saying earlier, if you watch it in a vacuum, it's like, this is pretty cool. But if you had like a primer that gave you kind of the building blocks of what you're looking for, then I feel like the clarity would go up a lot, because it's like, oh, I see that. These are things. And maybe even watching it a second time, you'd be able to be like, oh, I get it. This all makes sense now. Like, this happened there and this happened there.
You don't have the luxury of that opportunity.
So. Yeah, 2 of those 3 scenarios you typically don't do in a regular presentation. Usually you just watch the song.
I got to give it a 5. I feel like it's a passing grade, but like, you're going to get the things at the end, but just not nearly as much as without that speaker.
Yeah, I feel like I got to give it a 5. That's where I'm leaning.
Passing, we could fix it. We can make it better. Difficulty. It's actually pretty hard, because in this team there was only 7 people, mind you, so we are working with not very much going on. Like, I feel like the transitions are so fast, especially like you get done with that beginning sequence of the demons, and then it just like is nonstop action, just transitions,
like unstoppable action. Anyways.
Also the staging. So like when Jesus takes on the sin, you have to have your guards positioned in a certain way so that when the circle rotates, they're in the right spot and time with number of people and all that. A lot of logistics. Having taught the song a few times, I'm going to give it like, I think I have to give it like an 8, because even with few people, everyone has to do a lot. Even with more people, that many more people have to be in sync on timing issues. So I'm getting it an 8.
Yep, that makes sense. I think like, I was thinking like a 7 or an 8 is kind of where I'm going. I'm going to give it an 8 as well, because like, I see the biggest difficulty spike in this song versus other ones being like the transitions aren't like you're here and then now we're over here. Yeah, it's like the transitions like are seamless into the next thing.
Part of the choreography.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, I love that. I think it's amazing. But it's also like that means that everything has to be done really well. Like when, for example, Jesus's or the crowds are going around Jesus, and then suddenly the stage like twists and turns, and then it becomes a new scene, and it's like, okay, so that's a completely like organic transition that is really hard to pull off.
Yeah,
and for the timing to be right, and for the logistics of the stage to be right, like that's hard. That's not an easy thing to do. So technical as well. All those things add to it. I'd say I'd give it an 8.
Which those just lean right into the style aspect of seamless transitions, fast-paced action, intentional stories. If I were to look at any one aspect, I don't think any one aspect breaks any crazy bounds. The fact there are other songs that transition from scene to scene without having to go to double zero, but I don't know of another song that has quite as good of a beginning and ending sequence. There are some songs that like do the recall thing where you do the scene at the beginning and then you go to the scene at the end, but this one adds Jesus in the right before that last one to give some clarity of what's going on. So pretty high in style and epic music.
Yep.
I'm gonna go 8.
Yeah. And I think that the style points, like a lot of it goes to like the nuance of things, and this is a very artful song. I think the song is amazing, and a lot of it goes to those types of things that it's like, not everybody does this. Yeah, it's not breaking any bounds per se, but it like goes with a lot. It found things that broke lines and was like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I appreciate that. And then, I alluded to it earlier about like the epilogue, after Act 3, there was kind of like an additional aspect that got thrown in there. And that doesn't happen very well. Usually if it does, it's done really sloppily. Like usually those are tacked on as like, okay, so now we pose differently or something like that.
Yeah.
But this, it felt like it was, okay, so everything has been established. The story is over. But now, and it's like, oh, well, wait a second, this is still going, and had that kind of epilogue there. So Act 4, like and I think that adds to its style. And
I would say the resolution of Act 3. Yeah, say because Jesus Rising wasn't the resolution. Now it's the person.
Yeah, but though that's what I'm saying though. It felt like that was the end of Act 3, but it wasn't, and that's what I give it a lot of style to. From an audience perspective, it's like, oh, yeah, this is really cool. So.
But what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it an 8, actually. Which is funny. That means that we got the exact same scores. I was going to give it...
Rewind to last week when you're like, you never agree with me.
Yeah.
Fill in the dream sequence from last episode.
make the screen all warbly.
You never agree with me. 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 And now we just have it all exactly the same. You did that intentionally, didn't you? Just to mess with me.
Yes.
Just to mess with them. The ones who are mashing that like scribe.
Just to break their lines.
Yeah, how about you break your line and talk to us for once?
Yeah.
I see you, bro.
Yeah, you lurking in the comments. Get out of the lurk mode and come into
the light.
The light. Breaking the lights. Wait, no,
algorithm. It's bad.
Anyway,
say hi. Tell us what you think. High drama people who hate our opinions on this or whatever because we gave it low scores.
Yeah, I was gonna say like we gave it pretty high praise. I feel like.
I mean, the clarity we gave
except for the clarity. I'm sure, do better on clarity.
when drama choreographs a song, man, they are passionate about the song they choreograph. There's ownership from those members, which I appreciate. Why you choreograph as a team, but man, you can't critique those songs for a while. There's a couple of them that I've wanted to redo, and I will never touch them because the people. I'm too scared of you.
There was something else. This is like high style points. This makes it an 11 on style. It's a drama song that doesn't end with. Just kidding.
It kind of does, just to the person instead of the audience.
Okay, 8's fine.
8's fine. Yeah. All right, I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Breaking the line.
It's like the most normal outro we've done in a while.
Yeah, no, keep bringing it back around.